Ya, benar. Terima kasih Anda masih bergabung bersama kami di Power Breakfast. Kini kita masuk di segmen Create Up dan kali ini kita akan membahas mengenai KPR lebih ringkas lewat startup sudah tersambung melalui video conference. Ada Ilya Kravtsov, beliau adalah co-founder of Ringkas KPR platform. We are connected with Ilya Kravtsov, co-founder of Ringkas. Hello, good morning Ilya.
Good morning, selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi. Thank you very much for joining us here on Create Up. So I mentioned your name correctly, right?
Yes, perfect, perfect.
All right. So talking about the potential of mortgage or the home credit ownership market in Indonesia, how interesting is this?
Well, we believe it's very interesting, and it's also a big challenge for Indonesia. So I think there's two indicators that probably is very important to look at. One is the mortgage penetration to GDP ratio, which Indonesia is still below 3%. So if we compare it to other markets like India, where it's already 11%, or US, where it's 50%, so it's still fairly low in Indonesia. So that's one of the things that I think will make the mortgage and the KPR market grow. And the other indicator I think also very important is that in Indonesia at the moment, the backlog of housing is estimated to be around 13 million. So a lot of households are still without owning a house. So I think something to really work on, and we believe it's a big opportunity, but challenge at the same time.
Yeah. It is interesting when it comes to the potential is very huge, but the growth is still limited, as you mentioned before. So what challenges that being faced by community when it comes to accessing themselves to the property product through credit scheme or mortgage?
I think there are several issues at the moment, and I think one issue is linked mainly to the information. So I think a lot of people don't understand what is a KPR and or mortgage in English and how it works. I think the second issue is more linked to the process. So people don't know how long would it take them to get approved. So they are worried that they're going to get rejected, which documents they need to supply, and so on and so forth. So that's definitely also an issue. And the last one is more related to affordability, right? Obviously, if you want to get a home credit or a mortgage, you need to have some down payment, so you need to have some savings, right? So I think those are the key issues that we observe at the moment in the market.
So it's not basically about the raising price of the house, but it's all coming back to the long process of proposing the mortgage process. This is my experience also, having long process for the approval and etc. So what solutions being offered by Ringkas to make it more, simple and effective?
So we focus mainly on three things. So one thing we do is we call it pre-qualification. So we try to pre-qualify customers before even they apply for a mortgage to a bank. And pre-qualification, during this process, we actually help them to understand where they stand and what they can afford and what they cannot. The second one is we focus on digitizing the entire process. So customers can fill in one application with Ringkas, which would be submitted digitally to multiple banks, right? And that increases their chances to get approved and increases their chances to get the best product. And the last part is where we try to match make and understand what is the risk profile of the customer and the risk appetite of the bank, and trying to match those two.
So it is interesting when you have your own pre-qualification process when it comes to reading the profile of the debitor.
Correct.
How can you measure the the level of compliance of debitor when it comes to having the house using the mortgage scheme? How do you read that?
Well, there are several things, right? First of all, you need to do what we call EKYC, right? Yeah. So you need to understand that the customer is actually the customer who's going to purchase the house. Second one is you need to understand the income of the customer. So how much he's making, and also take into account his spouse. and then calculate what house he's trying to buy and how much more on per month he needs to pay to pay off his mortgage, right? So if that percentage, the amount he needs to pay divided by total income is not too high, then we are pretty certain that he's going to get approved for a mortgage. If it's too high, then we'll recommend him to either buy a cheaper house or get more savings for the down payment.
Okay, so it is getting interesting. We'll continue it after the break. Dan pemirsa tetap bersama kami, usai jeda kami akan segera kembali. Terima kasih Anda masih bergabung bersama kami di Create Up dan kami masih berbincang bersama Ilya Kravtsov, co-founder of Ringkas, KPR platform. We are still connected with Ilya Kravtsov, co-founder of Ringkas. So is there any guarantee of the speed or on the speed of mortgage proposal that had been managed by Ringkas compared to the conventional one? Like maybe can you describe about the the length of the process using the conventional method compared to the method that being presented or managed by Ringkas?
For sure. Well, conventional, usually, let's say if we talk about the primary market, so when you buy a new house, what would usually happen is you would go to a marketing gallery and you would identify the unit you want to buy. And then the property developer would assist you in applying for a KPR for one or multiple banks. And that would entail filling in forms for each bank. And photocopying all your relevant documents, and then bringing these documents physically to a local branch or cabang, and then the process would kick off, right? And usually it can last somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So that's or even longer sometimes. So that would be traditionally. Now, what happens with Ringkas is we don't want to necessarily change completely everything. We just want to digitize it. So the customer would, in our case, also go to the property developer, identify the unit, and then the property developer will use our platform to onboard the customer, upload all the relevant documents, and submit them to the bank, to multiple banks digitally. The difference is that you need to fill in only one application, and that one application can go to as many banks as you wish. And obviously, you don't need to carry them anymore physically to any branch, right? So we have SLAs now. We work with the largest banks in Indonesia, so around 14 banks, Mandiri, BCA, CIMB, Niaga, and so on and so forth. And our SLAs are on average, once the documents are complete, is 1 to 2 days for an approval or rejection.
So the efficient, effective, and seamless process not only giving a value for the community, but also giving a value for the bank, for the property developer, because they're having their own target. So when it comes to the process of mortgage proposal, pretty seamless and fast. They're going to have the target sooner. Okay, so how do you measure or how can you see the sustainability of Ringkas business in the future? How can you make a lot of stream revenue from some sources, and what are those?
For sure. So I think in our case, it's also very similar in terms of what can happen in the more traditional ways. So usually banks, they do pay a referral fees if somebody referred them a loan or a mortgage. So in our case, it's very similar to that. The only difference is that we refer them in a digital way. So we monetize on the bank side on the commission fees for every mortgage we refer to them. And obviously, since we are a platform, we are very scalable. So we can our volumes are usually a lot higher than what traditional mortgage brokers would have.
Sure. So the last question is going to be about the funding. Any funding so far being gathered by Ringkas from VCs, or what you're going to do about the funding that already gathered?
Well, I have to say we are very lucky, even though there's a so-called tech winter. We just closed our recent round in May of 3.5 million, and yet last year we closed another 2.7 million. So we are well capitalized, we have a long runway, and we are really investing these funds for a national rollout. So at the moment, our product is already present in Jakarta, Surabaya, Makassar, Palembang, where I was yesterday, and we'll be rolling out Medan soon.
Okay, thank you very much, Ilya, for joining us on Create Up this morning. Have a great luck for you and, of course, Ringkas. Thank you very much. See you
Thank you
on the next occasion. Thank you. Alright, itu dia pemirsa perbincangan saya bersama Ilya Kravtsov, co-founder dan juga CEO dari Ringkas, KPR Platform. Dan sebelum saya akhiri Power Breakfast, kita akan simak terlebih dahulu update dari pergerakan IHSG dari awal pembukaan sesi 1 hingga saat ini. Seperti datanya dapat Anda saksikan di layar televisi pemirsa. Untuk IHSG saat ini ya, nampaknya berada di zona hijau, berada di level 6.817,745. Saham-saham yang masuk ke dalam jajaran top gainers diantaranya adalah ada Maya, BGTG, kemudian TGUK, ada Arto, MTK, BBYB, GoTo, DOOH, dan juga Antam. Sementara itu untuk top losersnya adalah ada Tron, Film, BMTR, Adaro, MAPI, WIRG, Buka, dan juga Telkom. Dan pemirsa, sudah 90 menit kami menemani Anda dalam Power Breakfast, dan semoga pembahasan hari ini dapat menjadi referensi dan sumber informasi untuk Anda. Tetap perbarui informasi Anda hanya di IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy and Comprehensive Investment Reference. Saya Wiki Adrian, mewakili Prisa Sombudatu dan juga rekan-rekan yang bertugas undur diri. Terima kasih. See you in the morning.